There's one thing most people will remember about their childhood, and that is the times they got in trouble and the punishments that were handed down for doing whatever deed it was that you did that got you in trouble. We're going to go over some of them things because some of these are considered child abuse now. Child abuse. I tell you what. Back in the day, though, it was everyday life. So we're going to talk about some of the punishments I got, and probably most of you got as well. And for you younger people, this was how it was. This was how kids were made to pay for their actions. There were consequences to things they did. And you learned from that. You got disciplined at home by your parents. You got disciplined at school by your teachers, by your principals, whoever else they deemed was responsible enough to discipline you. You got disciplined if you went in the military. We're going to get on those. Those are the best ones. This is when I went in the Army because I had not yet grown up yet. But I was soon to find out that Army discipline was a whole lot worse than anything my parents ever gave me. Well, the first one that comes to mind, and everybody my age probably received, was a good old-fashioned spanking. Yep. It could be with your parents' hand, which generally never hurt, past a certain age, I would say. Or it could be with a belt, or it could be with a switch. And if it happened at school, it could be with a paddle. I had my own paddle. I've said it in other videos. I had my own paddle, my own personal paddle, in my junior high principal's office. It had my name on it. He kept it in a special corner. It never gathered dust, I will tell you that. Never did. Now, if you did something at home, depending on who was home, okay, if I did something at home and my father was at work, which was the case most of the time, my mom would get the belt, wear our butts out. A lot of times she'd have to chase us around the room, which only made her madder. And if she had to chase you down, you got it worse. Okay? Always on the butt. She didn't slap me in the face with the belt. She didn't slap me anywhere else. But if I gyrated around enough, one might land on my leg or land on my back. But that was my fault. I never looked at that as abuse. Okay? That was just how things were. You looked at that as that was your punishment. Sometimes getting a spanking was the best punishment because it'd be over with and you'd be cool. But they didn't always happen that way. You would get a spanking and then you would get grounded. Yeah, we'll talk about grounding here in a minute, but sometimes if what you did was bad enough, your mother would spank you, and then when your father got home, well, you got it again. That's right. He wore your butt out too, and his belt was always on his britches, ready to go. And his spankings, they hurt. Well, because he's a man, a man can swing a little harder, and he was not a small man, so it hurt. Yeah, your butt would be stinging. Never to the point of injury, never to the point of excessiveness. Just enough to let you know, you're not getting away with it, dude. You're not. Another punishment. This is one I hated, that my parents loved. Standing in the corner. They would do this in school, too. If you did something bad, and it didn't warrant a spanking, or they didn't feel like giving you a spanking, because that's physical exertion. Well, they would tell you to go stand in the corner. Arms at the side, straight ahead. Don't you move. You stand in there until I tell you it's time to come out. You would have every wood grain memorized. Faces would appear in those wood grains. Those were your corner friends. They lived there. They knew you was in trouble. They tormented you. One looked like the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. And I swear, His face would move from time to time, like he was trying to tell me something, like he was making fun of me. He knew I'd come visit often. There he was. Satan was in a few of those corners. Yep, horns and everything. I think even one time he had a pitchfork. Often that would be the same corner, because furniture would be in other corners. But once in a while, you'd get sent in a different corner. Now, if you were out and about with your family and you weren't at home, and taking the belt to you was not the option at the place, or, you were in the car, well, there were punishments there too. One time, I stuck my tongue out at my mother, and my father saw it in the rearview mirror. She didn't see it, but he saw me do it. And he made me, when we were just leaving the house, and he made me stick my tongue out and leave it out, and I had to sit right where he could see me, and I had to leave my tongue out. I would say what seemed an eternity, probably only an hour, but it was embarrassing because when we went into wherever it was we were going, I had to keep my tongue out. So here I am walking around, the whole family's with me, and I'm like, and he would purposely do this. Well, what do you want to eat, son? Don't put that tongue back in your mouth. I'll never forget that one. Needless to say, I never stuck my tongue out at nobody ever again. That cured me. Punishments worked. They only worked temporarily, but they worked. And eventually, you learned right from wrong. Now, if you had a best friend, and I had a best friend, and I'd go spend the night over at the friend's house. He had a bunch of brothers and sisters. There were 7 of them. And then friends would come over and spend the night. Well, my friend's parents were given full permission by my parents. If I acted up, they had permission to spank me. And that only happened on 2 occasions. And I wouldn't really consider them a spanking. One, we got our butts wore out. We were out on the porch, my friend's house. We got a gallon of gasoline and we were playing with gas. We would pour it on the concrete and light it. Watch the little flames go up the trail. Well, I lit the trail before my friend was done pulling the jug off, and it lit the jug on fire. He threw the jug, and all the gasoline caught the whole porch on fire. Nothing really burned up because it was just concrete. His dad come tearing out of that house, and we were all stomping, putting that fire out, and when it got put out, he went in and got a belt, and he was chasing us. A little guy, but he was tough, and he'd get a hold of me, nothing more than my parents did. Once in a while, his mother would get angry at us, grab a Hot Wheel track. If you've ever had your butt smacked with a Hot Wheel track, you'll know what I'm talking about. Hot Wheel tracks hurt. They do. That only happened once, but we got caught smoking in the back bedroom. But we would all hang out in there. It was a huge room. It had a swamp cooler in it because air conditioning wasn't around too much in them days. She walks in and catches us all smoking, and there was probably 5 or 6 of us. We all got the Hot Wheel track. Yeah, never can say I had a switch taken to me. Maybe we just didn't have the right trees, or my parents just didn't have the patience to wait for me to go cut one down. We didn't have a wood shed. It was just wherever you was. Yeah. Another punishment was go to your room. You're grounded. I liked those punishments because my room was set up real nice. I had a stereo in there, with the record player and the 8-track. But I wasn't allowed to play them if I was sent to my room. Sometimes I may not get the evening snack, which would be toast or, whatever it was for the evening snack, I would be left out. And I'd smell it. That was punishment. Now, if you got in trouble in school, wow, there was a whole nother batch of punishments there. Once I threw a spit wad. Teacher turned around, I threw a spit wad. It was like a whole big old piece of notebook paper, and I had been chewing on it a while, and it was nasty. And I took that big old spit wad. As soon as she turned around, I went, hit the chalkboard. Somebody snitched me out immediately. It's always a girl, too. He did it. I had to write. My assignment was, after I got swats, I did get swats, but I had to go home and write 5,000 times. I will not disrupt so-and-so's class. You learned how to do that the quick way. You would take 10 pencils, 5 pencils, and you would stagger them. Yeah, you tape them up. You could write 5 to 10 lines at once, and they would all look identical. They knew you were doing it, but it still took time. Today, I would just put them on a copy machine. I'd be done in 5 seconds. Can't do that today. Maybe that's why they probably don't do that today. If you got sent to the principal's office, see, the option was the teachers used to be able to do it. Most of the teachers would have a paddle. But if they didn't want to do it, some of them probably didn't believe in it, you'd go to the principal's office. And that was where you always got the worst ones. And I said, I had my own paddle in junior high, but I was getting them in elementary too, from probably first grade. I remember getting them in first grade, second grade, all the way on up till the day I left school. And they hurt your butt. And I kind of liked, they would swat you. You'd get probably never more than 5 swats, but your butt would burn for hours. And after a certain point, it's kind of felt good, that burning sensation down there on your buttocks. I didn't mind it. But they never leave a bruise. And if they did, I don't think my parents would ever check to see if there was a bruise down there. I survived all those things. School would also put you in the corner. I had all those memorized. There was things I did in the corner, I would turn around. You can always put your eye to one side and see where that teacher's at. And then when the teacher would turn around, I'd turn around real quick and make faces at the class, and they'd start laughing. Teacher'd look over at me. They knew what I was doing, just couldn't prove it. There was no video cameras in them days. And then I went in the Army. I had not learned my lesson by the time I hit the Army. And I did pretty good up until about my 4th week of basic training. And back then, you were not allowed to smoke. You could smoke, but only when they told you. But you could have cigarettes on you. And everybody would go to the shooting ranges or wherever you were, and we'd all go to the bathroom and just hotbox the heck out of a cigarette, pass it around. Well, I got caught. Me and 2 other guys. The drill sergeant made me go get all the cigarettes I had. I had 3 packs. He had me open each pack and pack as many in my mouth as I could. And when I couldn't get any more in there, he would try to get them in there. And he lit them all. And we're in his small office. Me and 2 other guys were in his small office. He lit all them cigarettes that were in our mouth and told us all to get in the front-leaning rest position, which is get down for push-ups. Sometimes when they just make you stay at the front-leaning rest position, it was difficult. We didn't have to do push-ups, but we had to puff them cigarettes down to the butt, and we could not get up until that was done. That room was so thick with smoke by the time those cigarettes were burnt down, you couldn't see. He had the windows shut. It was terrible. And then, when we were done, he had us dispose of all the cigarette butts, and he handed each of us a cigarette, and he lit them. He says, now you boys can have a cigarette with me. And trust me, we didn't want that cigarette, but we had to smoke it, and we were sick. Oh my God. Another time, I was in line, waiting in line for chow. Okay. Military lines are orderly. You don't goof around, especially in basic. You don't goof around. You don't do any of this. And I heard a helicopter go overhead, and I looked up at it, and I got caught. He said, Private, you like helicopters? I'm like, yes, drill sergeant. He said, good. I want you to float around this parking lot like a helicopter until the last person in this line gets in the building. So I go around. I said, well, I don't know how a helicopter is supposed to act. I just went around. He says, you're not a bird. You're not a bird. Act like a helicopter. Put your hands above your head and do this. And make the noise. Go, bup, 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 bup. I had to run around the parking lot like this. Bup, 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 bup. I didn't get embarrassed. I kind of felt like that was a badge of honor. But I never looked up at a helicopter again. You see, these punishments all mean something. They're mean to teach you. You cannot get away, every action has a reaction. And if you do something wrong, you're going to be punished for it. And that's missing today. Because kids aren't getting punished like we did. I think the highest punishments they have now is, I'm going to take your cell phone away. We wouldn't even have been allowed to have a cell phone even if we had them. That is the problem today. And if any form of punishment that you would dish out today is considered child abuse. It was nothing. If you acted up in a grocery store in 1975, your ass was going to get beat in that store. And nobody cared. They were happy. That kid was being a brat. Now he's getting his tail whooped. Yep. Or you were going to get it when you got home, but nonetheless, you would be punished for your actions. And that's missing today. And that is why a lot of the times these people are weak today. They have no discipline. There's no consequences for any actions they do. They bring that into adulthood, and you know the rest of the story. Have I made my point? If you've hung on to the video this long, I hope that you get it. Thanks for watching. Let me get a drink of coffee. And them dogs, there's a new stray dog in the area. And all the other dogs are barking at him, and Rooster's out there, and people don't like me slurping my coffee. I don't know how many people commented on that. Your videos are okay, but I can't stand you slurping that coffee. It's disgusting. I apologize for that. There's my glasses. I was looking for those. Happy trails. I said happy trails. There you are. Bye now. Oh, I guess I'll have to get up and shut y'all off because y'all don't listen.